Well, welcome to another edition of Survival Stuff with Indiana Jim. Sponsored by Live Free USA, America's oldest preparedness organization. We are located on the internet at americansurvivor.org. That's americansurvivor.org. That's our website. I am James C. Jones. I write my books under that name, which is my actual name. But I do live in Indiana, but Indiana Jones was taken, so we're going to call our little programs Survival Stuff with Indiana Jim. As I said, Live Free USA is America's oldest and most respected survival preparedness organization. We believe that prepared and self-reliant families are the foundation of a free society. Emergency preparedness, we believe, is the duty of every responsible citizen. And responsibility is a key part of what Live Free is all about. In a previous episode, I talked about personal preparedness, personal preparedness analysis. In other words, analyzing your personal things that you need to be prepared for. Personal hazard analysis, which is a technique I got from my career as a safety professional. And as I was talking about those things, I started to talk about the tools that Live Free has developed over the years that we put in our publications, in our newsletter, American Survivor, which comes out every 2 months. And by the way, if you join, you can load this off the website every 2 months, or you give us your physical address, we'll actually mail it to you every 2 months. America's oldest survival publication, back from the 60s. But we publish in that newsletter and also on our website various tools to help citizens prepare. And as I mentioned before, some of the tools that I mentioned in previous videos, the home safety checklist, because if you're at home and you fall down the stairs and break your neck, or you get caught in a fire, you're just as dead as if you died in Armageddon or nuclear war or whatever other big disaster you're concerned about. Home safety is just as important. We are a broad-based survival preparedness organization, so we like to cover all the bases, including home safety and personal safety and the things that you do at home. We also, another tool that we have out there is the Citizen's Guide to Emergency Preparedness. And actually, by the way, if you have a group, organization or family or whatever, and you want some extra copies of these to distribute at a meeting or something like that, we'll be more than glad to provide them. We would hope you'd make a small contribution to cover the mailing and printing, but like I said, we're a not-for-profit tax-deductible organization, but we're out here to help you get prepared. And then I talked about the emergency preparedness score sheet, which we also have. And you can find that online too, and you can print that and go over it with your family. Where are you in this stage? Are you just can't get past 2 or 3 days in an emergency, or are you totally self-reliant, or somewhere in between that? You can use that score sheet to determine where you're at and then determine where you want to be so you have goals. But today we're going to talk about the American Preparedness Checklist, which I referred to in my personal hazard analysis video a little while back that I made. I decided that it might be beneficial to go over this whole checklist item by item real briefly, but just to give you an idea of the things that you really need to do. And this is a real basic checklist. It's not getting you ready for the end of the world as we know it, but it's getting you at least prepared to handle some ongoing and continuously evolving disasters and stressful situations that our society is in today. So, the home emergency preparedness items on this list, and we cover a number of different things, but home emergency preparedness. Does your home have all the following items? And we'll go over those one by one. The first one is 2 gallons of stored water per person per day for at least 10 days. Now, if you've got 3 people in your house, that's 60 gallons of water right there. It's a lot of water. If you live in an apartment or in a small space, that may be kind of impractical. Besides that, that's minimum 10 days, okay? 10 days is not that long. If the system breaks down, real kinds of disasters happen, it could be a lot more than just 10 days before the water starts coming back out of the faucet. It might never come out of the faucet again. You have to be prepared for that as you're doing your evaluation of where you're at in this journey to self-reliance. Here we are, we're 10 days, and we want to go to 50 days, 2 months, 3 months, and so on. But 10 days, this is realistic that you should be able to store, again, that amount of water, that 10 days supply of 2 gallons per person, which is, we usually use about 5 gallons a person in normal life, flushing the toilet, cleaning the dishes, taking a shower, all that kind of stuff. Person average, we use 5 gallons. But this is 2 gallons, you can maintain reasonable sanitation, reasonable cooking, drinking water, that kind of thing. 2 gallons per person for 10 days per person in your house. But beyond that, you probably want to go to your camping store. You can go to Cabela's or any camping stores and get yourself a water purification, pressurized water filter system, which is these from Ketadine. They make some of the better ones out there. They're designed for camping and wilderness survival, that kind of thing. But you can use them at home too. And they also make much bigger units. This one is particularly, this one with the filter that's in it is capable of filtering 500 gallons of water. So any water you can get out of your, coming down to your gutters, rainwater you collect, wherever you can get water, you can filter and make potable water out of for 500 gallons. And this doesn't take up as much room as storing 500 gallons of water. But something like this, it's this Ketadine kit, comes in a nice compartment. It's got a hose and everything. You hook it in there, you pump, pressure that water through the pump. And you want something like that. Go to your, like I say, the camping supply stores, go to survival supply stores. If you want to get a bigger unit that'll do 1,000 gallons, 2,000 gallons of water, that's fine. Or you want to just get something like that and buy extra filters. Every filter is 500 gallons of water. So that's a lot of water. And you don't have to take all that space. But you want to have some stored water, okay? Enough food to provide 2,000 calories per person for at least 30 days. Because you might get water out of the sky, you might be able to filter it, whatever, but food ain't going to fall out of the sky. So you got to have stored food for about every person in the house for at least 30 days. If we had this pandemic that just went by and everybody actually been able to stay home, not go to work, not go anywhere, and believe me, if we had a pandemic that killed every third person who caught it, we wouldn't have much population left because all the people had to go out. They didn't have this capacity to stay home. The only way that you can survive that kind of a deadly pandemic, which may well come in the near or far future, not too far future either, is to be able to stay completely out of the society for up to 30, maybe 60, even 90 days until the whole thing blows over and either kills everybody that's going to be killed or the herd immunity of what's left of the herd. By the way, this herd immunity thing, that's a great idea. But the only trouble with that is it usually kills about half the herd. So we don't want to do herd immunity. Not for you don't want to do it anyhow. Okay, so anyhow, 2,000 calories per person a day, minimum. So you want to store this. And I could spend 2 or 3 episodes just going over how to calculate that. Start looking at those cans, start looking at those packages. Pasta. Canned goods, put the dates on the canned goods, rotate them, every year or two. By the way, they last a lot longer than the expiration dates, okay? I opened buried caches that were 25 years old. Very few people have been around long enough to bury something, dig it up 25 years later and test it. And a lot of the canned goods were still perfectly good. Some of the other stuff, I wrote an article on that, some of the stuff that didn't work out too well. But pasta lasts a long time, rice, beans, peanut butter is a great source of energy. There's a lot of other things that last a long time and keep well. If you've got the room to store that much food, that's great. If you've got a house, a basement, place to store this stuff, store it in tote bins, good waterproof tote bins for sure. Check it, rotate it. MREs are okay if you get them reasonably recent dated MREs. Look, if you don't have a lot of room or you want to combine it, which I do, I got canned goods and I got normally dried, non-perishable types of food. I got MREs, and I also have a lot of freeze-dried. The thing with freeze-dried is, of course, you're going to have to reconstitute it with water. So the more, freeze-dried or dried foods you have, the more you're going to have store water to reconstitute those foods. So you have to think about that. The main thing is start building up your food supply. Solar powered lanterns. You want to have 3 sources of light, okay? I have oil lamps, which are kind of a fire hazard, a little scary, and you got kerosene, all that kind of thing, but I've got quite a few of those. I have some kerosene put away. I also have solar flashlights, which I keep in the window to make sure they're charged, solar lanterns. So I have a solar powered panel that I can hook up and recharge more things all the time. You want to have a recharger, so if the batteries go dead, it may be solar powered, but maybe it's been cloudy for 2 or 3 days or whatever, you can still have extra batteries to put away and have charge while you're having them on charge. You can still have the other batteries operating the piece of equipment, the flashlight or the radio or whatever. So you want to have at least 3 sources of light. And my main one that I always say is candles. They're simple, they're storable, they last a long time. Those big, 4-day candles, 10-day candles, have a lot of those. That's your sustaining light when you don't need a lot of bright light, but you need the room lit. Candles are great. Even those little tea candles. Sometimes when the power's out, I just put one of those in each room. At least I can get around, and then I got rooms where I can use the solar lanterns and other lanterns for reading and doing whatever I need to do. Safe method of providing heat for one room for at least 10 days. We've done some experiments with this. Most houses are open concept. Lots of them don't have doors. They got big rooms. You're going to have to take one room, have some plastic and duct tape. There you go. You have plastic and duct tape and seal off that room. And you can use a camp heater. They make all kinds of heaters, LP gas heaters, that are made to heat small spaces, like I said, camp heaters. Another technique for winter survival in a home, when all the power and all the other things are gone and you don't have any other sources of heat, is if you have a tent. By the way, camping is a great thing. You should have everything you need to go camping. You'll have 90% of what you need to survive an emergency. You can move that furniture aside in the dining room or the living room, put your tent up in there. Okay, put your camp heater in there, put your sleeping bags in there, and that's where you're going to sleep tonight. That's where you're going to spend most of your time. You can light that with your smaller sources of light. Be careful with candles in there. But at any rate, also, by the way, when you've got these heaters inside, you always make sure that your CO2 carbon monoxide detectors are handy and operating properly, okay? Because that is a big danger when you get into using generators and camp heaters and those kind of things. But you can't freeze to death either. So anyhow, we want to have plenty of light. Another thing we want to have is camp stove. You can get one of those little one-burner camp stoves. I like the 2-burner camp stoves. Plenty of extra gas, LP gas cylinders to hook up to that camp stove. I've had quite a few situations. My wife came home from work one day and she says, there was a tornado and the trees were down. She managed to eventually get around the trees, and there was a tree down on top of our garage. And I had coffee going, and when the camp stove sitting on top of the real stove that we weren't using, that we couldn't use. I had the camp stove going, and I'm making coffee, and I'm making breakfast, and all that kind of stuff, because that's what you got, a camp stove. So you want to have one of those. You don't want to get up in that morning during Armageddon and not have a cup of coffee, right? Okay, camp toilet. Okay, you can get these little cheapy ones. It's just basically a bucket and a bag and a toilet seat. You can get some pretty nice, fancy ones that come with the chemicals and everything, and of course, plenty of toilet paper that you want to have put away, and plenty of plastic bags. Have plenty of plastic bags. You're going to need them for your garbage. You may need them to collect water outside. You're going to need them to put human waste into and put some bleach in there. And wait to see if you're ever going to get the sanitary system's going to work back. You can dump it that way, or you may have to bury them. But you have to have bleach to maintain sanitation. I would recommend you have 4 gallons of bleach at all times in your house. You can use it for sanitation uses, and you can use it for decontamination uses, and you can use it for purifying water. 4 to 8 drops per gallon of water if it's questionable water and you don't have the nice little Ketadine filter systems, then that's what you want to do. At least 2 large-size fire extinguishers. I don't mean those little, the little fire extinguishers that look like spray bottles, under the sink. That could put out a stovetop fire pretty good, and you should have it, and it should be make sure that it's up to date and workable. I'm talking about a full-size industrial size fire extinguisher, probably a size 10 they call it. ABC extinguisher. In other words, it'll put out electrical fires, it'll put out spilled chemical, gasoline fires, it'll put out wood fires and that kind of thing. You want to have at least 2 of those, well positioned, handy to get a hold of. If in an emergency, the fire department's either not going to get there at all or they're going to be delayed. Fire doubles every minute. The size of a fire doubles every minute. So the sooner you can get that fire out, the better. If your house burns down, it's doomsday for you in a whole lot of ways, okay? So you definitely want to be able to put out house fires, whether it's a house fire that starts normally, if you could say that's normal, or a house fire that starts during the course of a disaster, such as a flood or a tornado or Armageddon or civil disorder. Maybe somebody throws a Molotov cocktail your way. Whatever, you want to have these big fire extinguishers. It's one of the most overlooked problems or needs that people have. I hear people they got all kinds of weapons and guns and firearms of all types, but they don't have a fire extinguisher. You're much more likely to die or lose everything in a fire than you are in a gun battle under stressful situations. So, solar crank radio. Now there's a whole variety of these crank radios. In case you can't get the sun on it, you can crank it up. It's got a battery. I leave this where the sun can shine on it and it can recharge. These batteries go bad after a while. So when the batteries go bad, you want to look up what kind of battery you've got in here and have some spares and keep it solar charged. But you can, in an emergency, crank this and actually recharge the batteries. And here, this one is both weather band, AM, FM, weather band, and it also has the transmission capability for the general purpose radio system. Okay, so you can actually get out there and call for help or whatever and communicate with your fellow members if you want. They also come in smaller sizes. This is this kind of size that I keep in my pack, actually. Very nice little radio. You can get the weather forecast on this. You can get AM, FM. You need to know what's going on out there. So you need to have an operational radio. This has also got a great flashlight with it. It's solar powered, so I usually leave it in the window so it's constantly powered up. It also has a crank in the back so that I can power it with the crank. But you got to have this. This has got to be on your list of things you got to have. Okay. A well-stocked first aid kit. You can buy these. This one's about $30, or you can put it together yourself. But everybody's used to going to urgent care now, or maybe they got a couple of Band-Aids in the medicine cabinet or something like that. But you really need to have a fully stocked first aid kit. Now I got over here, right here is a huge medics pack. I'm an EMT, a former EMT, and I've got everything I need to splint and stop massive bleeding and all kinds of things in there. Maybe you're not up to that yet. You do need to take a first aid class. It's very important. However, at least get a basic first aid kit, have it fully stocked. You may want to also, for the next pandemic, it's coming, go down to your fish supply store or go to your farm and fleet or whatever, Tractor Supply, and you can buy antibiotics. Now, antibiotics don't work that well for viruses, but the next one may not be a virus. And even when the viruses are going around, they can kick off and make you susceptible to other kinds of pathogens. So this one is, penicillin, amoxicillin, and what have I got here? Cefalexin. Okay. I have, by the way, I've covered in my newest book coming out, the Prepper's Guide to First Aid, or Prepper's First Aid Handbook, whatever my publisher decides to call it. I cover how to use these, which things these are good for, which kind of injuries, which kind of illnesses these are effective for. But you want to get these cost about $30 a bottle. They're just exactly the same as the pharmacist will give you if you have a prescription. Good thing to add to your medical supply kit, okay? You also want to have, by the way, stock up on respirators. I bought a new box as soon as they were available. I had a brand new box. I had some extra supplies actually available when the pandemic broke out. My wife asked, well, why don't we have, why doesn't everybody else have N95s? Why am I the only one in the store wearing an N95? I said, because we're the only people that have them. But anyhow, yes, it's time to stock up on those. They are effective. There's some debate as to how effective they are for inhalation. They're definitely very effective for exhalation. They're fairly effective for inhalation. I get arguments about, well, they're not 95% effective for inhalation. It's been proven, blah, blah, blah. You can pick your studies. You can choose whatever study you want. They are partially effective at least. And here's the logic, okay? I'm not going to wear these because I'd rather have no protection than some protection. Does that make any sense at all? No. You want to have as much protection as you can for pathogens during a pandemic. So all these kind of things. And you want to have at least one defensive firearm. It can be a handgun, shotgun, rifle, whatever works for you the best. I believe the overall best one, and I've said this before, is a shotgun, preferably a short-barreled home defense type shotgun. You have 100 rounds of ammunition. If you want to look at my my survival shotguns video, we can talk about that in more detail, or you can look at my issues in my newsletter on the website. I talk a little bit more about survival shotguns. So this kind of wraps up the kind of things that we want to have for home emergencies. You have to keep these items handy. Now, other things that for home emergencies you want to think about is what they have on your nightstand. What to have when that emergency breaks out while you're in bed. In the middle of the night, you got an intruder, tornado sirens go off, all that kind of stuff. You smell smoke, and now you got to get out of this house. Think about those people that were in that building that collapsed. Okay, 1 minute they're sound asleep, next minute they're in a pile of dust and smoke. They don't know what's happening. You want to have your cell phone right next to your nightstand every night. These are just good survival habits. You want to have your cell phone there. You want to have your wallet there. You want to have your car keys. You have to crawl out of your house and it's on fire. You get out of the house and you don't have your cell phone. You don't have your car keys. You don't have your wallet. That's all going to go up in smoke. Compared to, I'm outside of my house, I got my cell phone, I can make phone calls, I got my wallet, I got my identity, I got my car keys, I can get my car out of the course of the path of the fire, I can leave. Other things to have in there, flashlight, yes, your weapon, whatever that might be. It might be a handgun, might be something else. Escape tool, we talked about having a small, like a crowbar, that kind of thing, to get yourself out when the door is jammed or smashed through the window, whatever you need to do, a whistle to get attention, those kind of things, and we have those things covered extensively in our newsletter. I'll also cover them in pretty much all of my books. The Survival Gear book, which came out last year, and my book Total Survival, which I talk about a lot of these kinds of same kind of things. I have all these lists in these books, which are available through Skyhorse Publishing, and you can also get them on Amazon. Total Survival, 150 Survival Secrets, Advanced Survival, and the Ultimate Book of Survival Gear are out there now, and my first aid book will be out shortly. But I don't make a lot of money on these books. All of the funds that when Live Free sells these books, all those funds go to the organization. One of the main things too you want to have as part of your family home preparedness is plans. You need to have plans for family emergencies, such as a medical emergency. What are you going to do if somebody has a heart attack? Do you know what to do? What are you going to do if somebody is bleeding profusely and, they have arterial bleeding and blood squirting out? They have to recognize they have 1 minute to act. Does everybody in the family know what to do? Do they know what to do when there's a storm, where their shelter space is? Fire and emergency fires in the house, do they know how to crawl out? Do they know where to go if there's a home invasion? Have you set some spots where you're going to get together if you all disperse out of the house or the house burns down or you can't get to the house or whatever? Where are you all going to gather? I mean, this nice plan is not going to work if it's just going to work when everybody's home, okay? Mom's out shopping, the kids at school, you're at work. Nobody's home, okay? Now, where are you going to meet? Are you going to be able to get home? We could talk about that, the get home pack, and be able to plan also to how you would get home when you can't drive and there's an emergency, or how you're going to survive until you can get home. Subject for another day. But prepare for, now, what are you doing to prepare for everyday emergencies? Well, again, we talk about what to have in your pockets. Be a walking preparedness kit, walking survival kit. Small pocket knife if you can have it in the places that you go, or one of those nice multi-tools where you got all kinds of little tools there. I usually carry one all the time. Matches, a lighter, a magnesium fire stick, miniature flashlights, these great little miniature flashlights. Don't just depend on your cell phone for light. A little miniature flashlight, your cell phone is dead, you got another source of light. Folding N95 respirator. You saw that, 9/11, all that dust and smoke and everything. Some of the people who had been through the previous attempt to bomb the World Trade Center, I noticed as they're running down the street, they got N95s on, and they're not breathing those things that later on caused serious illnesses. Also, they have to be properly fit, test fit when you wear them, and I cover that in several of my books. I cover exactly how, I doubt I can find it in that quickly, but I have the instructions as to how to fit it. Because if you don't fit your respirator properly, the air's not going to go through the filter if it can go around it. And that means the bad stuff isn't going to go through the filter either. It's going to go around it and into your lungs. But N95s, they make folding ones that can go around your pocket. They also help keep you warm in the winter, keep you from breathing cold air. So those are very important things, that you're carrying things with you. If you're over 50, you should be carrying some aspirin with you, because the first sign of a heart attack, you take an aspirin. It's a blood thinner. It could very well save your life. So that's an important tip right there. We've saved some lives already with that tip. Just, the little packages of aspirin. Have a couple of them in your pocket. Also have them in your bedside drawer, because you wake up in the middle of the night, you got the chest pain. Okay, you call 911, you take the aspirins. You've just improved your chances of survival considerably. Okay. Finally, the things on the checklist that we mentioned, the final part of that on the back page of the checklist is evacuation preparedness. Is every member of your family prepared to survive an evacuation to a safe location immediately if necessary? They should have the following: an appropriate size evacuation pack. Now, this is not a full survival pack. It's an evacuation pack, which is basically going to get you through 3 days of either the emergency situation's over, you can return home, or you get to a shelter on your own. And don't depend on driving there, okay? You want to be able to have something you put on your back, and you don't want to have it overloaded with all that stuff. You want to be able to carry this thing for 2 to 3 miles at least without taking a break. That applies to every pack you've got. And as you get older like me, you want to start taking some weight out of that pack. So you got to be very efficient, very smart about what you put in that pack. But every member should have it. All the kids, the dog, not the cat. I don't know what you're gonna have to carry the cat, I guess. But the dog probably should have his own pack. I know a lot of my friends that have dogs that actually have prepared, pack with a little folding bowl and all their food and all that medications or whatever they need. But everybody should have a pack. Everybody should know where it is. It should supply fresh filtered air. Again, there's a respirator, purified water, a couple bottles of water at least, and maybe some water purification tablets in there. One of those Mylar blankets, or maybe even a space blanket, depending on how heavy you want to go. One of those, blankets to keep you warm. Number one rule of outdoor survival when you're outdoors is don't get wet. Maybe one of those little rain hoods. that you can put on. Warmth and shelter, sufficient food. It could be, granola bars, all kinds of things that are storable for a few years, for some basic first aid items, and self-protection, whatever that may be for you. It could be a handgun, maybe the kids aren't carrying handguns, but you are. Maybe they can carry a little extra ammo for you though. Pepper spray, whatever you feel comfortable with. I tell people this over and over again for street survival. If you're not confident that you can use a gun safely and you will use it and not wind up handing it over to the bad guy, then definitely you should have it. So I advise you to get one, be safe with it, get training, and feel confident that you will use it if you need to. And your essential documents, you want to have those in your evacuation pack. Your deeds, your social security papers, your identification, your insurance documents, your medical data, all those kind of things you need to have with you, because you may never be able to get back to them in your home. You look at those places where the whole town burned down with these fires in California and Colorado and so on. I hope they took their documents with them, because otherwise they're going to have a hard time with the insurance company. They're going to have a hard time getting their checks, all that kind of things that they need to do. Definitely gives you a big advantage. So you want to make sure that those documents are in your survival pack, your evacuation pack, maybe stored somewhere else with somebody else in emergency so you can get to them if your community becomes untenable. Okay? And a destination. You need to have a destination. Okay, now maybe that's a FEMA shelter, God help you if that's what you need to do. A campground, a relative's house that's out in the suburbs, far suburbs, or out in the countryside, whatever you feel. Some people have rented storage units in small towns and put all their survival equipment and backup supplies in one of those storage units and check it once or twice a year. And that's their survival plan. They're going to go there, and we're going to get all of our equipment out, our tents and whatever, and that's going to be our destination. Okay, so street and road preparedness. You want to make sure you've got plenty of stuff for your vehicle. You want to have a plan for surviving hijacking of your car, carjacking, active shooters, stranded in a storm. We just saw some people in, I think, Afghanistan or Pakistan, caught in a blizzard. 20 or so more of them died of hypothermia overnight. Well-equipped vehicle emergency kit, and by the way, I cover that extensively in my survival gear book. I don't really want to push my books, but nevertheless, I did cover this very well put in that book. But you can find those lists on our website, AmericanSurvivor.org, or the auto clubs, all kinds of stuff. They have those, but do it. Have the stuff there. Have the blankets. Have the food. Have the heating source. Have the first aid kit. Have the fire extinguisher. Have the jumper cables. All those kind of things you need in your vehicle. The small shovel, just in case you do get stranded in a blizzard or God forbid, some other catastrophe happens where you can't get home right away. Small get home bags. Again, you can pack those small get home packs. It can be like a butt pack or something like that. Just enough stuff for you to get from work or from school back home in an emergency. So it might take you a day or two if you live in an urban area. You got a weapon, you got a couple of weapons maybe, pepper spray, you got something to keep you dry and warm, you got some food, some water, and those kind of things, so you don't have to go, getting in with the looters or all that. You can avoid all that, and you're on your own, and you can, come down a railroad right away, or some other area, work out a route. How am I going to get home from where I'm at if I can't jump in my car and drive down the expressway? So you want to have that covered, okay? Okay. Children should have little packs. All the kids are carrying these big heavy packs to school. What do they get in there? They should definitely have a survival blanket in there. They should have a little first aid kit. They should have a few food items that, hey, you only open this if it's an emergency, okay? Little things that can make them feel more confident. A whistle. Whistle for help, that kind of things. Obviously, you should train them what to do for attempted abduction. And as the children get older, you give them bigger packs, bigger responsibilities in relationship to your emergency plans, more emergency training, first aid training, what to do, how to help the family out, give them more responsibility. I know you're going to make paranoid children. Well, I'm sorry, but if you've seen what's going on out there, there's an old saying, paranoia is just good thinking. Well, it is, okay? I was raised sort of in a hard, bad situation, so it made me, kind of self-reliant and a little bit paranoid about what's happening, but I have fun. I have a normal life otherwise. But anyhow, yes, kids need to be better prepared. They're going to have to live through decades of challenge to their lives and their freedoms and their families, and getting them out of this dependency mindset and this tendency to become complacent and dependent. We've got to get them out of that mindset. And we need to anticipate what's going to happen. We need to organize, and we need to prepare. So with that, till next time, this is Indiana Jim for Life and Freedom. Stay safe out there.